Hi there, I'm Scott Johnson. This is my second take making this video because my stupid remote control failed the first time. All right, so I am the state organizer for Indiana 5051, and my team tonight, hi Belladonna, handed me the twin question of why are we targeting Amazon on May Day and why are we specifically targeting the Alexa device? What's going on? Scott, you've got to talk about this. Sure. So our 5-1 event, that's at the State House in about a day and several hours, oh no, we are running a protest called a number of names: Smash, May Day, and We Don't Trust You, Jeff. Everything's better with lots of names. So we need to start with some historical context. And I am not the best person for this. One of our speakers on May Day is, though. My good friend Brad Lorton of the Central Indiana Democratic Socialist Alliance will be speaking, and he will go over workers' rights and do a much better job, but I'll try. And oh, by the way, Indiana 5051 has been officially endorsed by the Central Indiana DSA. Thank you so much for that motion, Brad. Okay, so May Day is traditionally a celebration of workers' rights, and it is also a celebration of workers' rights to organize, to have what is called a union. And a union is one of the things that protects workers from the overreaches of management. Now, the term smash, which is one of our names for the event, is a reference to how companies break unions. They smash them. And they do it with unrelenting economic pressure and sometimes actually even physical threats. At the turn of the century, they did it with what are called the Pinkertons, which was the original private detective agency. Now, the term smash, sorry, I covered that, sorry. So what's the Amazon connection? So the first reason is Amazon is anti-union to its very core. Now, and quite honestly, they are one of the great anti-union companies. In 2025, Amazon employed 1,600,008 workers. In 2024, they employed 1,556,000 workers. Well, how many of those workers do you think are covered by unions? It's tiny. There are only 2 unions that represent a tiny fraction of Amazon employees. And this is true despite the massive numbers of workers that should be covered by unions or could be covered by unions, because most of those workers aren't software engineers, they're people shipping boxes. They're the classic blue-collar workers. And Amazon has been relentless at pushing back on unionization efforts, right down to shutting down fulfillment centers that tried to unionize. So Amazon's anti-union as core. Now the second reason is the inauguration and the NLRB. So if you cast yourself back in time just a mere 100 days to the halcyon time when Trump was only just getting inaugurated before all the current crazy. Remember watching that, the most dramatic thing that we saw, I think, as a country was the fact that Trump had seated the richest men in the world literally in front of our Congress people and senators. So the man from Google, whose name I always forget, I'm sorry for that, Zuckerberg, the king of Facebook, Musk, the eye-rolling ketamine person, and then Jeff Bezos himself was there with his fancy new upgraded wife. And I cannot prove cause and effect. You never can, right? Politics is hard. What I can note is that Bezos was seated right in front of all of our actual government people. And that very week, Trump fired one of the members of the NLRB. Now, the NLRB stands for the National Labor Relations Board, and that is the governmental organization that is required to certify any new unions in America. By firing one member, Trump broke what's called the quorum, the minimum number of people that you're required to have a vote. So no new unions in America can be formed anymore. Now, can I prove that it was Jeff Bezos that demanded this? Can I prove a quid pro quo? Of course not. Do I think it's awfully fishy? Wow, look at that, smell that smell of fish. Okay. Oh, and advertisement. This is my fancy new t-shirt from Divorcing Donald Trump. This t-shirt was made by a local indie activist, Monique Rusk. And if you want one of these shirts, get in touch with me and I'll pass you on. It's a great shirt. Now, the next reason is my personal reaction to the inauguration. Now, I don't know about anyone else in the world, but I firmly believe that using a product is a representation of trust, right? If I'm going to give you my data, I have to trust that you're not going to do something crappy with it. So I let Jeff Bezos into my home about a decade ago when I first bought an Alexa and had it start listening. Okay? And I'd always been mildly uncomfortable with this because I am a tech nerd and a little bit paranoid, as are so many of us. But the product was just so good, so damn good, I accepted it. I could say things like, Alexa, turn on the television, or Alexa, turn out the lights, or Alexa, set an alarm for 7:22 a.m., and it would just do it. It was magical. But when I saw Jeff Bezos seated in front of our senators or congresspeople, it gave me pause. It made me wonder whether or not he would be listening on behalf of Donald Trump. This is not a crazy notion. So what I did that night was I walked around the house and I unplugged every one of my Alexas and I put them in a box and they're now here. They are some of the Alexas that we will feed into the Smashatron 5000. The Smashatron 5000 is our device that takes an Alexa and pulverizes it. And if it doesn't pulverize it, we'll run it through again and again until it does. Right now, I'm afraid to plug them back in. Okay? Now, the next reason that we are targeting the Alexa specifically is we think, as part of 5051, and specifically Indiana 5051, we think the wealth gap between rich and poor in America is too damn large. Okay? Now, Jeff Bezos, God bless him, he created Amazon. Like, he has earned the right to be a rich man. Okay? But has he earned the right to be the richest man in the world or one of the richest men? I don't know. But I do know that rich men hate to be mocked. And the Alexa was one of Jeff Bezos' personal projects when he still worked for a living instead of hanging out with his new girlfriend on his ginormous yacht. So I look at it as I had to give Jeff Bezos a great big chunk of my trust to put his device into my home and let it listen to me and my family. Well, they don't earn that trust, so we are going to destroy them. Now, if you read the book, The Everything Store by Brad Stone, great chronicle of Amazon's history, one of the points he makes is that the Alexa was a Jeff Bezos personal project. He was intimately involved in it, and one of the reasons why it will not only responds to Alexa, but also to the word computer, is because Bezos, like so many of us, is a giant Star Trek nerd. That, to me, is the most humanizing thing about Jeff Bezos, and come watch an episode, Jeff. So he was intimately involved in the project right from the initial concept back in 2011 to working with the team until it finally shipped and finally got the name Alexa. So that is why. Now, if you would like to feed your own Alexa into the Smashatron 5000, here's what you do. You bring your Alexa device to the event. You show up with it. We will make you sign a release, and that release just says, this is my Alexa. It's not my friend's or my wife's or my girlfriend's or whatever. We just want to make sure you're not destroying someone else's property. And then you may put it in the device, and we'll even let you pull the lever crunk. It's actually a string, but pull the lever crunk. All right, now the final reason why we're doing this is because when we started getting into protests, we went out and actually did our research. And when I did my research, what I did was I went and I talked to people that I knew that were big in the protest world. The first person I talked to was my very oldest friend in the universe. This is a gentleman that I grew up with in 5th and 6th grade. We used to trade comic books together. It just shows what a nerd I am. And that man's name is David Rovics. And David is now an internationally known folk singer. He's an internationally known protester. And I don't think there's a cause that he hasn't championed over the years. So when I told him I was getting into this, he said to me, the difference between protests in Europe and the US is that European protests have music. You've got to have music, Scott, music. Kind of beat me up a little bit about that. And that's why we have musicians. And he can be found at davidrovics.com, DAVIDROVICS.com. And he just recently issued a great blog post about all this. And the other one is probably my newest friend, and that's a gentleman named Franklin Oliver. Franklin is a local indie native who left America at the time of the inauguration for Canada because, quote, I knew if I stayed here, I'd be in the protest movement and I knew I'd be targeted. Now, I don't think he's paranoid. And one thing I should say is Franklin Oliver is a man of color. And I get it, right? So he went to Canada because he has a specific background in history and the teaching of authoritarian governments. Now, when I talked to him last Friday, I showed him the Smashatron 5000, I showed him the videos, and I asked him what he thought. And I asked him specifically, are we being too silly? Right? Are we having too much fun with this? I mean, this is serious stuff. And his comment was, absolutely not. You have to make it fun. And that, fellow protesters, ladies and gentlemen of Indiana, people of the internet, that is why we are going to use the Smashatron 5000, which is our name for our device to reckon Alexa, and we are going to take shots at Amazon on May 1st, May Day, at the Indianapolis State House, noon to 4. Thank you so much. Can't wait to do it.